All right, so welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
And this is, of course, Conversations with the Crawleys, where we have conversations about faith, family, relationships, and recaps of some of our favorite shows. This one is all about Ready to Love, Season 5, DC edition.
DC?
We knew that was going to happen. All right. So if this is content you enjoy, and definitely because you're watching this, probably somewhere in your likes, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like, request notifications,
and share.
And we will, of course, see you in the comments. That tryptophan is hitting hard right about now. All right. So a couple of things. One, definitely shout out to all of the KT squad members. Hope you all are having an amazing holiday time with your family, friends, and so on. Make sure you don't do too much shopping. But if you do want to do some shopping, my store is available. We've got a discount for you, part of our squad. It's in the description there. T-shirts like the Grace Over Everything shirt, the Build Generational Wealth shirt, the LeBron is not my GOAT shirt. So that would make a great gift for anybody who is a true basketball fan and just wants to throw shade at the supposed king, LeBron. All right.
Don't forget our gift card giveaway.
Yes. Also, we are approaching 1,000 subscribers, and to celebrate that, once we hit 1,000, we are going to pull a name out of the hat from our subscribers, and someone will win a gift card directly from us. Not a gift card just to our store. You can use it wherever. All right.
Yeah.
Make that clear. All right. So, Ready to Love. We're over the halfway point. Last week, of course, we let go of, who did we let go last week? Courtney. She was not ready to love.
She was not ready to love.
Yeah. So power, of course, switches over to the ladies. The ladies have all the power this week. And Tommy's like, all right, let them meet your friends.
Yep, it's time. Let them sniff out who ain't true and who ain't ready. So
Zadia meets up at Top Golf, and I don't believe that there's a Top Golf in DC. I think it's actually in Virginia.
I think it's in Virginia.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look it up because there's no space really in DC.
Yes,
I mean, so yeah.
Well, gentrification could have happened too. So let's just be honest.
I'll look it up next time we go.
So interesting. All right. So Zadia and Naeem meet with her friends.
Right.
He brings her some roses.
Mm-hmm. And they start the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. You know, he is 40.
Yeah.
And he's like, so why are you not married? Why do you don't have kids? You know, so he's like, oh, so what's wrong with me? He keeps just saying that he just haven't found the right one.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know we haven't talked about this, but yes, we do know there's at least one guy that has 3 baby mamas and 3 children. Mm-hmm. But the majority of these men are well off. And they don't have any ties.
Yep.
And they don't have any children.
Yep.
And I think that's also a sign of maturity in most of these men, that they're saying, okay, I do want to wait until I find someone before I start having kids.
Right.
So he just felt like he hasn't found the right one.
Right.
And everything he's describing looks like that Zadia may be the one. So
yeah. Because I mean, here's the thing: you have kids. It's amazing, right?
Right.
But I'm personally a little concerned for someone like Dante, who has 3 kids by 3 different mothers, because then that just shows to me, in this environment. Now, I don't know him in real life, don't know how, but I think in this environment, that would be a red flag, is what I would think.
It would, but depending on how well has he learned from that.
True.
And making a decision that he is become mature enough to understand the responsibility involved, and that he does want to have a lifetime committed relationship by saying he does want to get married. Now, he seemed like he might want to be a family man and doesn't mind having more children, but saying he wants to be with them so his children are with him all the time.
Yeah. So they have a good date. The friends approve.
Yep.
Friends are good with him.
They're like, hey, we like him. He seemed nice. Now, I don't know, how old is I?
I think she's mid-30s.
Okay.
I think she's mid-30s.
Okay.
And then Sabrina, she brings her church prayer intercession group.
Shut up.
And they're all hanging out. I mean, like,
it's like a jury.
Half the show was just her introducing Walter to all of the people, right?
And the way we have to look at how he comes in, he introduces himself, he takes the time to shake everyone's hand, and, put himself at ease and put them at ease. So
Walter just handles it perfectly.
He's a professional.
They like him.
He's a well-rounded guy. Obviously, we understand that he has a head on his shoulder, full ride through what
Electrical
engineering. So awesome, you know, it's what got him into the DC area, and he stayed. Well, and obviously he finally had got married,
right?
You know, and lost his wife. So we can understand how they fit well together,
right?
Him and Sabrina.
Yeah. So that one went well. They loved him. They're like, yeah, that's the dude right there.
That's a good match for you.
Right. Sean comes in. Now, before Sean comes in, though, I think that Sabrina set him up for failure.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I was like, I can see some of that, because when Sean think he bringing his car so they can play spades, he thought,
like, we're gonna
have a party, we're gonna have some food, a little bit of drink. It was dry there. It was like everyone's just set up to pounce on him.
Right.
So Sean's perception of what the date was going to be like and how he was going to meet the friends did not go the way at all.
And I think that the fact that she set her concern on the table in front of her friends, already put in their mind, oh, we might not like this dude, especially when you compare him to what you just saw with Walter, right?
Right. Well, and I feel like she did him a disservice. She should have mentioned it before, like, or while you're sitting there, you know, maybe you had to take a time to kind of digest what he was saying.
Right.
But then why not, with a phone call later on, I would assume that they would still be talking, say, hey, what do you mean by if we decided to continue this journey in 3 months, you didn't know? So he had time to explain, because he's still on the fence if he wants kids or not.
Right.
And if that's really a yearning for you, we talked about this in the last video. You know, check it out if you haven't checked it out. That if he wants to have kids, he is going to have to be with someone who is younger, because Sabrina is at the point in age where she's like, I'm not having any more kids.
She's done.
I'm done. But a lot of people, or we said in a very small amount of people at that age, still wants to have kids.
Right.
So if that's a very big thing for you and it's a deal breaker, then Sabrina wasn't going to be the one.
Yeah.
So
Sean comes in, and if you notice, they switched up the seating. So
they're not sitting together; they're sitting in two separate chairs.
So they're sitting in two separate chairs. Her body language is different towards Sean than it was towards Walter. With Walter, she was a little more angled towards him.
Right.
She showed physically more interest in him.
Correct.
With Walter, with Sean, she was closed off. She was turned away from him.
Right.
So they interrogated him.
They really did. And just because the way he answered the questions, you know, it put them still asking the same questions. And he's like, no, I feel like I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
You know, and then Sabrina does finally like kind of pipe up.
She does try and mitigate, act as a barrier or buffer.
Right. But at the same time, I really don't think she really felt Sean. Not at the same. I think she could have had just Walter meet. And if her friends approved the Walter, she could have easily had gotten Sean, like, we're good as friends, without bringing him into that environment, to be honest.
Because, some of his questions, some of his answers, though, like when he was like, I can pay a bill or two.
I'm like, well, how are you paying?
Dude.
I'm like, how you pay your bills? Don't you stay? Where are you living?
Right.
You know, so when especially if you're going to ask someone to have children and get married, I would assume that you're going to carry, you know, either a little more than me, you know.
You got savings, you got
something, or you're going to show me how you're going to produce more money by the time we have children. But what's a bill or two? Is it just the gas bill?
Right.
Is it just the electric, the car note? Who paying your house though?
I don't think Sabrina needs you to pay her cable bill. I'm sorry. I just don't think that's
a problem.
Right. And then, you know, he did, you know, let us know what you thought about this. Cause I was like, I think you making a G thing out of something that's not a G thing. Cause one of Sabrina's friends was like, make it make sense. You're saying this, but this is what's happening. Make it make sense. And in his aside, Sean's like, real G's don't say make it make sense. Let us know what you think. Cause I'm like, I don't see that as how you say it as far as the tone and manners, you may say it, like, if I make it make sense,
well, I think he was saying it's kind of like a slight. He's like, man, I want you to be on my side while I'm trying to hook up with your friend.
But I ain't gonna be on your side if you're not my friend.
And I'm just making assumptions of what he's trying to get at, because I think the Sabrina's friend was very intelligent. Like, this is why this does not make sense to me. So help me to understand. Help us understand why this doesn't make sense. And then after you explain it, I'm like, yeah. But see, this is interesting. He says he's a journalist. So as a journalist, you do written communication. So I would assume that you could communicate well overall because you're a journalist. Now, obviously, there's different type of journalists, but I would assume more like newspaper.
He might just be a blogger, and here's why I say that. Because if you remember when he first came on,
He was an actor.
They showed him as a creative and right? So journalist now is like, okay, that sounds like right, but I'm wondering what that actually means for him, because the title that they've given him, the occupation that they've given him has changed from when he first got there. So I don't know, of course that's producers as far as how they term it, what have you. But it's like, if you've got that as your thing as a journalist or creative or what have you, it sounds to me like you don't have necessarily your career as a defined thing. You still may be finding yourself as far as what you do.
And then I was thinking, maybe Sabrina's out of his league. That's what my thought came.
You're not wrong in that.
I was like, maybe you reaching too high, boo. I think Sean was reaching a little too high. So.
Yeah. So yeah, and the friends are like, yeah, he running game. He ain't the one. They were like, we don't even got no disclaimers.
Yeah.
We ain't even got to have a conversation about it. That's not the one. He can be. Well, one of the ladies was like, I got enough friends.
Well, even the guy was like right in front of him, like, he will stifle you.
Yeah.
And I felt that was a little inappropriate.
That was a little out of pocket, right?
I was like, wow. That's when she came in and kind of like, whoa.
Right.
Please don't, like, cut the man's balls off, pretty much.
What's left of them.
Good Lord. So that's when she finally chimed in. But I was just like, wow. You're not going to even let the brother leave the room? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was a massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And then Camille meets with her friends and Cornelius, of course.
Of course.
Because there's no one else for Camille at this point, right?
She shut everybody
She
down.
shut everybody off, shut everybody down. She's focused solely on Cornelius.
Correct.
And they like Cornelius, what have you. But he does ask a good question as far as, okay, what do I need to know about her?
Right.
What? Because as much as Camille should be getting information from her friends about how they feel about Cornelius, Cornelius did the right thing and said, okay, let me ask you all about her.
Her commitment. Right.
And they called her runaway bride. Because remember, she's been engaged 3 times.
3 times.
One of the friends was like, she has some commitment issues.
Right. She gets bored easier is what she's saying.
Right.
But you didn't hear this. She tells them that Cornelius wants to be celibate. They laugh. So they said, you ain't going to try to check the package?
You good with that? So your friends know that don't sound like what you'd be good with.
Right. It sounds like you are sexually active. And for someone you only met in a couple of weeks, and they think that you get bored with the good guy so easily, you ain't gonna want to have sex.
So you're gonna stay committed and stay in tune with the guy who is a good guy who you've messed over before,
right?
And is not giving it up,
right? I think Cornelius, it should be red flags for Cornelius, because he's thinking, because she's seeming to be patient,
right?
But yes, she's very aggressive.
Right.
Now, this is what I call aggressive, because you're looking at women crazy when they mention him. You're trying to already, put your stake and your mark on him that no one else is going to be there, or come from him. Then, but I was like, nah, man. Throw that fish back.
Yeah. I mean, Cornelius has had enough, in my opinion, enough red flags from Camille already. Right. Remember, she cussed / fussed him out at the pool party. Right. So it's all of these things that, for me, if I were Cornelius, I'd be like, dude, I appreciate the interest, but let me move around.
Right.
Let me figure out what else is out here.
Right.
And we'll talk about it in a moment, but that's to his detriment, right? Sydney, who, remember, joined a couple weeks ago, she joined a little late. She hooks up with, or meets up with Frank, with her friend, her two friends. And Frank, who is hypersexual, is what he said.
That's
right?
what he said.
He's lovey-dovey, touching on her, what have you. But the friends are like, yeah, he gave some pageant answers. Right.
Which because I was like, hold on. When he did an interview, he said he never had a committed relationship. He told them it was 3 years ago. Then they mentioned something about, what's your connection with Sydney? And he says, well, I can see myself coming home to her. But he said that to Aisha. He said, I can see myself coming home to you. He can see himself coming home to any black woman.
Actually, any woman, because if you in the trailer.
Well, from the ones that he mentioned, for the ones he had mentioned, he could come home to, supposedly. So I was like, you may say that a little too often. Right. And so I think Frank may feel like she's the best fit because he is a bartender.
That's in the nightlife,
Is in the nightlife. I mean, he might sell spirit, or maybe he works as a branding ambassador, distributor too. And so that might be a good fit because of how he works. Most of his time is during the night, and maybe he sleeps during the day, whatever, however he moves. So since they're in that same environment, that makes it easy for them to have a relationship and her understanding what he does. So,
So
we'll see.
Then Mumin meets with, she meets initially with Dante and her friends, right? And Dante, as we've mentioned before, he has 3 kids by 3 different mothers.
And he brings it out. Right. He says that, which I think, again, is very important. Like, he's like, okay, this is your friend. I'm going to let it come from me. Right. That I have 3 children.
So Mumin's friend asked, okay, to Mumin, how do you feel about that? What do you feel about kids? And she says she loves kids. She works in the children's ministry.
Baby girl. Not about you doing children's ministry.
For your church.
For his church. This is about you being able to take on the dynamics of 3 different households and how 3 different mothers would like for you to interact with their child.
As a bonus mom.
And unfortunately, some might do really well. And as long as my child is clean, you're being respectful of it. Right. Others may be like, oh, you don't need to be doing this. Don't be saying this to my child. My child can do this and this. Right. And being able to navigate. There's different than when children are drop off and you're going to give a little Bible lesson and some cookie and some juice. Yeah. And the hour's over. Right. Right. These children might be staying overnight.
Right. This is not a talk about Noah and the animals type of thing. No.
This is like Christmas with us, and then you're going over your parents, you're going over your mom's house, or vice versa, making all those arrangements for the rest of your life. That's a lot.
That is. So, and then Walter shows up.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. We don't know if it was poor planning on Mumin's part,
not enough time
as far as having Dante there and then Walter coming in halfway through, or if Walter just is a guy who shows up early.
Right.
We try to live by the mantra: to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late is unforgivable. Right. So don't know what that was, but it was awkward.
Right, because he was like, "Oh, so you're you're my competition."
Right.
Okay.
And so Mumin talks about how, she could sense the tension on Walter, just because he came in some respects blindsided. It's bad enough. It's causing enough anxiety, one, just to be meeting your friend. Right. But now I've got to meet your friend and also see my competition.
Right.
So then after,
But he handled it well. Again, he's a gentleman.
Yes.
He handles it well. He's cool with Dante. And so they talk together for a while. And Dante tends, he takes me saying, like, look, this is mine,
That's only because he was getting close to her. Right?
He was right. But if you have those extra moments to make yourself stand out, he made sure he did that.
Right.
So, and then he leaves, and then it's between Walter
and the friend and Mumin. And the Mumin's friend is like, so, are you ready to be committed? Is this the one? He's like, we working on that, but you did just see another guy sitting right here. So I can't say that I'm committed to 100% to her. And I know that Brumman was just here.
Right. And I don't feel like they're really compatible. I think they had
a great conversation, right?
Which would spark interest.
Right.
But I don't feel for Walter that they're totally compatible.
I think Sabrina is probably his best match, just as far as level,
right?
As far as where they are in life. Correct. The only drawback for Walter is that Walter has expressed that he wants to have kids.
Right.
And Sabrina is done having kids.
Correct.
So that's the only thing that might cause a hitch there. But just on a person-to-person level,
right,
where they are, I think that would be, of what's still on the table, if you will, that would be his best fit. And for Sabrina, that would be her best fit.
Right. And I don't think he's like really stuck on having children.
Right.
So, I think overall, I don't see them,
I don't see it being a major issue for them.
No, not at all. And then I think for Walter, he just, like you said, he's just trying to keep open, but it may not be anything in depth.
Yeah. And then the surprise MVP of this season of Ready to Love, Phil.
I can see it.
Phil got 3 dates with friends.
Because he's a laid back, he's stealth guy. He ain't gonna come off like, I got the ladies in my pocket. Right. But he's working the field.
Oh yeah. So we saw him with Aisha, right? We saw him a couple weeks ago with Aisha. They had that moment where she kind of opened up to him about the kids,
She's been the most open with him.
Yes. So she meets with him and her friends.
Yeah.
And they
seem to vibe. Everything went well.
Everything's good there. Then he meets with Tasia, which I think we saw. Did we see them? Can't remember. No, Tasia did mention that she was feeling Phil in one of the ladies' lounge. But this is the first time we've actually seen them, I believe, interact. Again, good conversation. Shiloh, who I like Shiloh and Phil as a couple. I think that could be a good fit too.
But before we go on, you see where they were, where Taisha was sitting compared to where Phil was?
Yeah.
So my thing is, she's still closed off.
That's true.
Because if you're feeling him, why are you not sitting beside him, but you're across from him?
Right.
So that was a little odd to me.
I didn't pick up on that, but yeah,
I'm like, if you're feeling him, then show you're feeling him.
That's right.
You should have had an open chair, like my man gonna sit right here, and y'all can talk to him and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
yeah. I'm not really feeling Tasia, period.
I know you're not, even though she's from your house.
She's from the west side of my hometown. Listen, there's different parts to Chicago. She's from that other part.
So I found that interesting, and as he began to answer questions about where she is.
Yes.
And being. Because
the question, and I'm glad, at least as far as this season, there hasn't been this whole focus on who's number one, where's your number one, who's your number one, am I number one, am I number two? There hasn't been that this season. So I appreciate that, because I think that destroys the vibe of how this should be working as a relationship, discovery show.
Correct.
But her friend is like, where do you see her? And he basically was like, she's up there. She's not, I'm not saying she's one of the strongest. Basically what he was saying was, she out of the top 3, she's in the top 3. And that's all he's going to say.
That's all he's going to say. And I think that's important for him as he's trying to narrow down his journey and work through it, that he's being genuine to that point.
Now sometimes he did give, in my opinion, I won't call them pageant answers, but he gave calculated answers. He was like, let me think about this. Let me how to navigate this. So I don't say destroy your hope or destroy what we are building.
Right.
But I'm not going to make a promise to you or make a statement to you that you can now go to the ladies' lounge and say, I told you that you were number one.
Right.
And now all of them are looking like, because
you player. Right.
So, because we saw Corey do that, so yeah. So Phil navigates that. He met with Shiloh again. Good friendships there as far as her friends feeling him. Phil really at this stage could, in some respects, have his pick of what's there as far as what he's vibing with. I don't see him. I think Phil has been, like we talked about, undercover. He's kind of been just moving along stealthily, but he's been making these connections that, as we start to pare down, he now has a few different opportunities for love.
Exactly.
Okay. So then we get to the ladies' lounge. And Tommy is like, tell me what's going on.
Right.
Sabrina's like, I am not feeling Sean.
Right.
And then we find out, because remember a few weeks back, Tasia and Sean had gone on a date.
Yeah. About, and I felt like they were going to be a good match based off of what he said.
Because he was like, she's got a good Jill Scott vibe.
Yeah, she's like, I like that. She wants kids. And I'm like, that's what you should have been pursuing.
Yeah.
Why weren't you pursuing that? Because again, well, we'll see a little bit later. But I felt like that's what he should have been pursuing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tasia was kind of put off by the fact that he had not reached back out to her. And then so then there's the conversation that starts about, okay, who are we not feeling? Who should be going home? And of course, Sean's name was brought up, but then Cornelius's name was brought up. And everybody's like, yeah, we know that Camille is feeling Cornelius. But is Cornelius feeling Camille?
Correct.
That's the question.
Correct.
Right? Because Camille has locked in on Cornelius since like the mixer.
Put teeth in.
Yeah. She like got him in the bear trap. Right? But we don't know where Cornelius stands fully with her.
Right.
So Tommy exits stage left. He's like, all right, y'all figure it out. And so for the first time, I think we get to see the discussion of how things go when they have 2 or 3 to choose from. We see that there's this conversation and the ladies start beefing.
They've been like, look, listen, I'll keep it wide. I'll keep it small, narrow. Don't come for me.
Right.
And then we realize they don't know all each other's names.
Right.
So I was like, y'all should have names.
Sydney doesn't know everybody's name.
Right, because she only been there a couple of weeks.
But I don't know that Sydney has it all together anyway. I think Sydney you know how there's a hot air balloon? She's full of air. I don't know that she's when I compare her with the other ladies and what they seem to be bringing to the table, Sydney is a great party girl, a great nightlife type of person, but I don't get from her that there's substance there. And so when she's basically says something to Zadia's like, wait, whoa, name.
She said girl.
Yeah.
And it's the way she said girl. And I had to hear it again because it was like, it's not like, oh girl. It was like, girl, well, and she's like, whoa. My name is
Zadia.
And I know Zadia was like, I feel like Zadia was like on campus again. Like she had to fight all the HBC women on campus. You know what I'm saying?
Like she was about to hit the step show.
Right. Like she was like giving off vibes like, okay, like we're out here in the court, on campus. What you guys say to me, I'll come for you. I was like, what is wrong? I don't know. She was mentioning earlier that she had a day. If you didn't hear that, she mentioned earlier, she's like, I had a day, so I had to pour me a little bit of champagne. So it might have kind of rubbed on into this conversation for how our day went.
Because Tasia first, when Tommy was there, did make the statement, I think it's time for things to start shrinking. right? Well, that's easy for Tasia to say because there's no one really checking for her.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But for some of these ladies who are using this process and have made connections,
right,
and connections are being made with them,
right,
it's not as easy to say, okay, now I'm focusing on my one.
Right.
And so Zadia's like, I got my top two.
Right.
And she, from Zadia's perspective, it seemed like she felt like people were telling her, no, you need to make a decision of those top two. Who do you still want?
Right.
And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
I have still time.
And then there was this moment with Aisha where Aisha at first was like, yeah, I'm going to let Phil do what he does because I'm going to let him stretch because then he's going to come back. If he is for me, he's going to come back.
Right.
But then she starts to get on this bandwagon of, well, I need everybody to start shrinking too.
Right.
But there's because we're at this stage, I can understand having a top two, possibly even a top three. Because at this point, you've had plenty of dates, you've had plenty of opportunities to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is who I'm building a great connection with. I'm not sure it's fully there yet, but I'm there. We're getting there, as opposed to, I've locked in on this person and that's it.
And I think sometimes you have to not put yourself in a box, because if you're really feeling the person that's leaving, then I would say then if you really want that person, then leave. Then staying around for picking someone second, then later on, you're not dating them anymore, because it's supposed to be ready for love.
Right.
And if you're saying I'm ready for love and I wanted to be with this person, then choose that person. Right. But it's because it gives me a vibe. Well, I'm gonna keep at least two, because if one of them is voted off, not ready for love, then I still have the second one. Yeah. And I don't think that should be
well, because if you think about at the Houston resort season, when you had Jay and Joy, when Joy left because her sister passed away, Jay was like, I'm gonna head out too, because by that time they were pretty solid.
They were pretty solid
as a couple, right? So for him, it made no sense for him to stay and hang around. Right. So I think that if the person, no matter what, if the person that you have your strongest connection with, and you're like, this is my one, if that person leaves, then dip out. Right. So there is this beef battle on. Camille again is showing all of the many faces of Camille.
And there's a lot.
And
a lot of faces.
Tommy was even like, okay, you gonna start making faces? Because it's, to me, is so childish.
It can be disrespectful.
It's disrespectful when someone's just mentioning the name of Cornelius and you have all these faces. It's like, are you serious? You're 40 something years old and this is how you respond. So I think Camilla's talking about, she's made a theater major or what have you. That's great, but you're not acting on this, or maybe you are acting on this show. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you're trying to get the lead for the next Oprah Winfrey TV show, whatever. But at the end of the day, as a man, I'd be like, nah, deuces, I'm done, right? So Zadia and the two in the bottom, of course, are Cornelius and Sean.
Yep.
Zadia goes and meets with Cornelius, and Cornelius makes a few statements there that I'm like, dude, you're in control of this, because he's like, I wanted to meet with you, but I was afraid of how it might come off because she's friends with Camille,
right? And what would go back to Camille and
doing something I shouldn't do.
What is that? You're dating. What you shouldn't be doing.
In a show that's about you dating.
I'm like this. If you have to be on eggshells because of somebody else and what you could say, then Camille, come for me. Because if I get another call from you, you had your one opportunity. So I'm going to do it on purpose to see if she's really sorry for what she originally did. Right. And she know how to handle herself as a woman. Right. Because if I get a call and you calling me out of my name, saying something else, and it's supposed to be me and you, I'm going to politely say, I'm ending this conversation. And trust me, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Right. And then however you decide you're going to leave the show, leave the show. Right. Because I'm a grown man and you ain't going to treat me or talk to me that way. Right. So for him to feel like he's on eggshells, why are you acting like you're committed to her? Right. And giving her boyfriend vibes. Right. by allowing her to dictate the way because of how she acts. Right. Because that means you're going to have to do that when you're out and navigate certain ways, because I don't want her to think I'm looking at other women.
Yep.
It's too much.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. So the fact that Camille put her claws in to Cornelius early on caused some of the ladies to pull back. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Cornelius did not push against that
exactly
meant that the ladies were like, okay, I guess he's good with it.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's very possible that there are other ladies, and we saw that. I think Courtney was one, but we saw other ladies that could have been checking for Cornelius.
Exactly.
But because the claws were dug in and he did not do anything to pull those claws out,
right,
he's now in a position where he's in danger of going home because no one else has had the opportunity to build a connection with him, and he's not made the effort. Because he even said, Zadi, you were in my top two, and she's like, was? First of all, because they haven't had a date.
Right.
This is the first time they've had a date.
Right.
Is what we
were just saying
a date alone, right? He's like, she's attractive, she's sexy. And she's like, okay, but she's another person that could have been checking for him, but because of how the dynamic is between Camille and Cornelius, it wasn't going to work.
Yep.
So he does get the chance to stick around. He does get told that he is not ready to go home just yet, but it's only a matter of time, right?
Possibly. Because when it comes is the men's turn, that might change the decision.
That's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean and Tasia. Sean goes out on a date with Tasia. And she also mentions, I hadn't heard from you.
What happened? I thought we were vibing. I thought there was a good conversation. Well, I'm just a little slow in communicating. Okay. You say one thing. Again, he mentions how beautiful she was, how attractive she is, that she's looking good, and everything you desire. But you went for candy you can't afford.
He went to Ruth Chris on a McDonald's budget.
On blog money based off of what you told me. And so she's like, I'm just slow in this process. And then after that date, I just felt deflated and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you knew you were coming in late to the game. And if you knew the producers were telling you, look, it's already started like 2 or 3 weeks in.
Right.
And you're going to come into that. Are you that type of guy?
Right.
If you're not that type of guy, you shouldn't come on the show.
Right.
You had your 2 weeks of fame and now you're gone, and you had an opportunity, I felt like, to be there because all the things you said you wanted is in this one young lady.
Right. And
for whatever reason, we don't know, because you keep saying you like what you see, but you choose stuff. It's looking at the case where you can see all the prices and know you can't afford it. But you still want to try to get that, and you decline. You couldn't even get a loan.
You ain't got the credit for it.
You don't got the credit for it. You got the credit for it.
One other thing I forgot.
Stay in your lane.
One other thing we forgot to talk about was the moment at the ladies' table when Sydney was like, yeah, I think that, I just got here, so the guys are just kind of stretching their rubber band towards me, and they're just stretching their rubber bands. Sabrina was like,
trying to get to know me.
Sabrina was like, okay.
And moving on. Because someone had laughed. She's like, what? Because it's funny.
Yes. So yeah, Sean has gone home on this one.
And he acted like, oh, I'm so glad I get to go home.
Yeah.
Well, bro, okay. Well, I'm glad we put you out of your misery.
Yeah. So next week, the guys look like they'll be tasked with bringing the ladies that they're interested in around their exes. And so one of the things that we saw in the clip that was very interesting, definitely want to see that, is when Camille is asking Cornelius, when is his ex going home? How are you going to be a guest in my house and tell me when I got to kick somebody out?
We'll talk
about that next week. All right. So there's some things to unpack. As far as my pick for who might be going home next week, on my chopping block, I would say it would be a toss-up between Tasia, Camille, and possibly Sydney.
I think it's going to be Camille and Tasia. They're going to be at the bottom.
Yeah.
Camille, because she hasn't connected with anyone but Cornelius, and Cornelius is like, I'm not going to tell you in your face, but I will slice you.
Right. I'll cut you, let you go home, and I'll stick around for maybe another week after that. But yeah, because he doesn't.
I think he doesn't want like, I'm gonna block you.
He doesn't want confrontation.
No, he doesn't like confrontation. But he'll let someone else cut her.
Yeah.
And then block his phone.
Yeah.
Because he ain't gonna want to hear afterwards. I hope he ain't. Oh, he did. See, I wouldn't even let her come to my house. We would have met out at a restaurant.
I'd have gone to a rental. I'd have gone to open house.
Open house. Shut up. Get an Airbnb for a day. An open house.
Something.
People are walking through.
I'd find something.
Do an Airbnb.
Airbnb for the day.
Deep out in Virginia somewhere. Where it would be hard for her to remember because all the roads change. Okay. You'd be in Virginia, Maryland.
Midlothian, Virginia.
Midlothian.
Take her deep out. That way. Yeah. So yeah, and then Tasia's not really making she has a connection with Phil, but I don't think that that's a very strong connection.
No.
And the other person we saw her have a connection with was Sean, and he ain't call her back.
Right.
So.
Right. And no, that didn't go well with Frank. So yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So that's it for this. Let us know in the comments what you think, what your thoughts are. Let us know what we might have missed, and we will see you next time. Have a great one. Be blessed.
Be blessed.